Hello and welcome to the Hustle Over Everything podcast. This is the podcast where we receive stories, tips, and strategies from entrepreneurs who've done it to grow your business and take yourself to the next level as a person. Coming up later in the podcast is our interview with Tristan Barrocks. Tristan is a full-time entrepreneur, photographer, cinematographer, and a storyteller. He's based in Toronto, Canada, and he just made it in the Toronto Montreal International Black Film Festival. So congrats to him. Owen, man, how you doing?
Alex, man, I'm doing great. How you doing, bro?
Man, yo, I'm trying to decompress from yesterday, bro.
I know you have something you're about to drop on me right now.
Man, I went to Center Island yesterday and holy shit, bro. People are pretending it's not Corona out here. I went to the so to give full context, I went to the beach on Center Island. For people who are in the States listening, Center Island is an island in Toronto that you take a boat to, of course, because it's an island. And there's a great beach there that's pretty secluded, and it's hard to get arrested there because the cops have to, take a boat to you, and it's only a small amount of cops. It's a great vibe, Mm-hmm. And there's a portion of that beach that is clothing optional. And there's another portion of the beach that is clothing required, right? So we went to that beach. First off, to get to the beach from the island is a walk and a half. I didn't know that. And as I'm walking there, we're seeing a bunch of gay dudes go to the club. Go to the beach. I'm like, all right, that's cool. Gay dudes coming out to party, coming to have a good time. Cool. And my mind was not putting two and two together, So you get to the beach, you're starting to hear music. I'm like, oh, there's a lot of music. Okay, bro. Yeah, when I tell you, it's looking like Florida in there. It was insane. People were social distancing my ass, bro.
None of that's happening, eh?
Nothing. People were so close together. It was insane. No masks. No nothing. It was insane. I was like, yo, what is going on? So me and my girl bounced immediately from that and tried to find a secluded beach.
Mm-hmm.
A secluded part. We found this local part off the side. Even that had people on, but they were socially distancing. Yeah. They were a lot more secluded. So I'm like, okay, cool. We can vibe here. This is the goal.
Mm-hmm.
Was to find a little place where people were socially distancing and have a little beach powwow between me and my girl. You feel me?
Just a little intimacy, man. You need that.
Exactly.
Taking a pause from the cause, bro.
Exactly. So we're chilling on the clothing mandatory side of the beach.
Yeah.
And people did not give a fuck. So it was insane. So at one point I'm just chilling. Next thing I look to my right, I see a couple. They're in and one girl has a bikini on, the other dude's naked. I'm like, oh, okay. Cool.
Like straight naked, butt naked.
Butt naked. Dick out, all that. I look to my left and I see another dude that's naked. And his girl is even covered too. But the other girl takes off her bikini after. I'm like, oh, okay. At least get to see one thing for the visual pleasure,
Mm-hmm.
And it just starts getting crazy from that point on,
Things just got to another level.
Bro. So I'm saying, all right, I got a dick to my left, I got a dick to my right. I'm trying to stay focused and just look in front of me. You know what I'm saying?
I'm trying to mind your own business.
Mind my own business, you know what I'm saying? And I'm just they're vibing, all right. I'm not trying to be like the Debbie Downer, babe, let's go. I'm uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm there chilling, looking at on the lake. It's a beautiful day. The sun's shining.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to vibe, playing music. Playing some Burna Boy. And as I'm just looking out, 3 dudes hop right into the water. Right.
Mm.
Standing up tall and start hugging each other and start kissing each other.
In the water.
In my view. I didn't ask for this. I was minding my business.
You're busy looking in the horizon and stuff.
I'm looking at the horizon. I didn't ask for this, bro.
Yeah.
And these dudes start getting heavy into it in the triple makeout. I'm like,
my God.
Triple makeup. Then one man's I guess he's the alpha of the 3, starts grabbing their ass. I'm like, dog, this is too much. I didn't ask for this.
You know, Center Island's a family venue. It's a family place.
I mean, it was.
Oh my God. And they just had. Okay, go on. I don't want to ruin the story, but
So Center Island. Here's the thing. There's three parts of Center Island, right? There's Center Island. There's like Howland Island. Then there's another one. I forget the other one's name. So we were on Howland Island. You know, so maybe that's why it wasn't as kosher, I guess. But man, whew,
so is this the first time? Is this the first time you've seen some debauchery of this level?
At this level, definitely. Publicly, like I'll turn to my left and the other dude's getting head. Like,
oh my, like, you're joking.
I swear to God, bro, it was insane. They're like, I was like, dog, and then they like prance off like horses, you know, like into the night. And honestly, man, they about to, yeah, and I'm just like, whoa, they about to go. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh my God.
And I was just like, oh God, bro, what am I? Then they leave my it's cool. And then they come back and start like repeating it. I was like, wow, what? I'm so confused. Like, if I'm making out with somebody and like it starts getting like heated, I'm like, all right, let's go finish the job, right? They come back and start like having like a cycle of like kissing in the pool and in the lake, then leaving and coming back and doing the same thing. I'm like,
what's going on here,
bro? What's going on here? I don't get it. Honestly, man.
How's the missus reacting to this?
She was minding her own business, trying to. She
didn't even seem fazed at all.
She didn't seem fazed at all, and I was like, "How are you not seeing? This is, I don't know how she. But I think she's a nurse though. She sees
a lot of.
You know what I'm saying? People. She sees a lot of dicks. She's seeing dicks all the time. You know, she's cleaning a lot of dudes. So maybe that's why it's a lot more normal to her.
She's so desensitized from it.
Desensitized to it, you know. Like nurses that have a special power, they can hear someone dies and be like, "Okay, so is my shift done?"
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying.
Yo, it's like my mom, right? My mom works at the bank, and she tells me like she's seen an obscene amount of money. Like she's seen accounts with millions of dollars. Like she's held hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in her hands. So when I ask her, like when and I can also like come down to my level, but like I asked him like, yo mom, like don't you get shocked by seeing like 80 mil 90 mil in an account and you're just seeing numbers there like, yo, this guy's a baller? Like honestly, those days, I got over those days years ago. Like it's just like another day of the job to me. And I also say this, desensitization on the job happened to me when I was in grade 8. I was working at Harvey's. I was like, I'm a big fan of Harvey's. And I always thought like when I see all this food, I'm always going to feel hungry. I'm always going to be eating food all the time. But after shift, you just do the same thing over and over. The food doesn't even look as good as it was before. It's just kind of like economics. It's called the laws of diminishing returns, right? Mm-hmm. So essentially what it means, it's like the more you consume of one util, which in this case is a burger, it tastes really good. Burger number 2 tastes good. 3 good. By the time you get to number 6, it doesn't taste as good. So when you get to number 10, you look at the same burger, it doesn't give you the same return as the first one. So that's the same thing with number 1. It's just like, yeah, we were seeing all this money. I was disgusted by seeing all these naked dudes, but that feeling is just evaporated by the time you're seeing the 20th naked body. So it doesn't really give you the same effect. It's just like another day. And that's what I think happened to your girl, bro. You know, she got the same feeling. It's not the same feeling as she was at the first time she saw a naked dude on the job. First time ever making her appearance on the job.
Exactly. But for me, I was like, dog, what the hell? So that was my Saturday afternoon / evening.
Bro,
I got sick actually. Like I don't know if it was, I don't think it was anything related to like, what was going on there. But yeah, I started getting sick. So by the time I got home, I was like just ready to pass out. You know, I couldn't even do too much. I was just out like a light because I was just, I wasn't feeling it at all.
And Saturdays are like your chill days. That's like your off day. Like this is like where you actually get to do Alex stuff without thinking about work or podcasting or with media or anything like that.
Yep. And got absolutely nothing because like after probably like once the sun went down, I would say probably like maybe 8:30. I was like just in sick mode. Knowing you're sick mode, like I don't want to do nothing. I'm just ready to go to my bed and shower and just sleep. That was what probably so I was like, damn, I missed the whole night. You know.
Damn, that's tragic, man.
Yeah, man. But yeah, that was my day. You know, as interesting as that was. You know, let's hop into the business tip of the week.
Let's do it, bro.
All right, free bags. So what I want to share this week is very simple. There's tools for people to get educated on their own. I feel like we're in very much of a I'm trying to educate myself type of vibe and not just taking what everybody's spewing to me. So what I want to share with you guys is just some creators actually that are really doing a good job at sharing the way they've done things. And, because the point of our podcast is to share from people who've done it. So one thing I want to get into is affiliate marketing, e-commerce, and creators. So for creators on YouTube, search up Devin on Deck. Man, this dude has created some key things that we've used, that I've used in my business with my clients. So shout out to Devin on Deck. He's that on YouTube, DEVAN on Deck on YouTube. He has a lot of Instagram story hacks, creator hacks, brand deal hacks, and then he has stuff about menswear. But if you're just focusing on creator stuff, let's focus on that. The next, for affiliate marketing, this dude has blew my mind and really helped me grow as an online marketer. His name is Miles Beckler. Shout out to Miles Beckler. And he goes deep into two things predominantly. One is Facebook ads, and that's my jam. The next is affiliate marketing. So what he goes deep in, and what I like about the guys I'm bringing to you is that neither of them or any of them that's on this list are bait and switch guys where they're having the jab, and right hook.
Mm-hmm.
These guys are all just giving you the free game to get their brands up and just gain notoriety in their industry. So there's no buy my course. There's no book me now. There's none of that. There's just straight value, and that's one thing that I like the most because no one's hiding the information that you're trying to look for. It's just all of it, especially Miles. He'll give you some like 10-minute pieces of content, and the others are like an hour and a half, where he's going all the way deep on how to do the specific thing. So those are some things I'd highly suggest you check out if you're trying to learn Facebook ads, creating content, and affiliate marketing. The next is for Shopify e-commerce. Gamal Codner, shout out to Gamal and Fresh Heritage. He has an e-commerce brand that does over 10K a month. A black man that has an e-commerce company doing 10K a month in beard oil. And one thing about beard oil is that it's actually a competitive niche. A lot of people don't realize that, but it's very competitive, and he's been able to carve an archetype and serve that archetype a specific product and make money off it. So I highly suggest you check out his course. It's free. Once again, it's free on Shopify. And I can link to that in the description down below. So yeah, this one's very simple. There's resources for you to use yourself. Feel free to do that. If you find anything, feel free to share it with me, and I'll share it back to the audience. You can DM us at 24/7 Hustler on Instagram. And that wraps up the free bags, the business tip of the week.
Free gems by Alex.
You feel me? Free gems, exactly. Yeah, bro.
Yeah, man. And guys, man, you know what time it is. And first and foremost, thanks to Alex, these gems are really great tips that you can apply to your business, ways to make money, things to take your business to the next level. They're things that move the needle. They're not like big things, but the things you can implement right away, and you can work yourself towards getting your business to that level of success, profitability. If you mix them all together, they become a powerful force. And guys, you know what that time it is right now. It's Mr. Hustle Muscle on the mic, Ono Sinde, ready to give you the Hustle Nation tip of the week. So the Hustle Nation tip of the week is this one statement: begin with the end in mind. And when I say begin with the end in mind, it begins with anything that you do for your business or for yourself. Start with the end in mind and work backwards. One of the great examples that I have today to share with you is the Thomas J. Watson Jr. He was the son of the founder of IBM when he started IBM, and he took it over. And, he was the second president of the company. So when Thomas J. Watson took over the company, he asked himself, what type of company do I want to become? What type of company do we want to be in the future? How do we want people to see us? How do we want to function inside as a company? What's the type of culture? What's the values? What position in the marketplace do we want to have? And how do we want people to know us? What do we really want to be known for? And what he did is he wrote down all these things that he wanted to see in the future. And what he did was he reversed engineer it. So he had the vision of what IBM would be today. And all those same values, everything that he planned out back in back in the 1940s still are relevant today. And this was all planned from a vision that he had. So he asked himself, what would a company like that in the future, how would it act today? So he asked himself, okay, if we want to be the company of this century, the one that dictates computing forever, like a leader in computing, how's that company going to act today? And what he did is he asked himself these questions and he implemented the behaviors towards becoming the vision that he had planned on for the next 30, 40, 50 years. And I say that to say this. A lot of us are starting our businesses right now. We're starting our e-commerce businesses, our apps, our services that we're providing. But we're just starting, but you need to have an end in mind. And when you have an end in mind, it gives you a destination. Last thing you want to be is a ship without a rudder, just going with the wind, going in the water, sailing, but with no end destination. But you're moving, but you're not really going towards a direct path. So having that vision is really going to cement where you're going to go. And now you're going to work backwards towards your map. What are the different things we're going to do to make this ship, the people in the ship, the materials that make the ship, the structure, the length of it. So see the ship as your business, and you're doing everything right then and there to work towards that vision. So whatever it's your e-commerce store, whatever it's a brand you're starting, map it out 5-10 years and then come back. And even if you're not 10 years from then, start acting as if you are that type of company. Start acting as if you are a Fortune 500 company, and etc. And these are like the principles of how it's going to get you towards becoming a Fortune 500 company. You might not want to be a Fortune 500 company, but let's say you want to be, okay, $1 million revenue company. How would that company act? And once you start acting like that, you start implementing the behavior. And most importantly, you start having the mentality of becoming a winning company that's going to attract talent. It's going to attract great customers, and it's going to keep attracting more and more business for you. So that is the message of this week, the Hustle Nation tip of the week. Act with the end in mind. This also comes from a personal level. Act as if the type of entrepreneur you want to be. If you're going to be a fitness person, you're going to see yourself fit. Act as if you're fit. Act as if you love fitness. And subconsciously, you start taking on the person that you want to become. And this is the person you govern yourself each and every day with. So that is a Hustle Nation tip of the week, guys. Remember, start with the end in mind. Anything is possible. Start with your vision, reverse engineer it, and start acting as if that person you are today, even if you're not that person, but conduct, act, walk, talk in all your affairs as if you are that person you want to be. So that is a Hustle Nation tip of the week.
Great tip, bro. Great tip.
Thank you.
All right. And with that said, let's hop into our housekeeping items and straight into the podcast. Hey guys, before we hop into the podcast, we have a few housekeeping announcements. For free to support the podcast, if you're on Apple, make sure you rate and write a review about our podcast. This makes a huge difference. On Instagram, make sure to take a screenshot and tag us in the Instagram stories. It makes a huge difference. It helps us share the podcast out and expand the community. On Twitter, we're at 24/7 Hustlers. And on Facebook, we're Hustle Over Everything. Guys, we were busting our ass, especially Owen, working on their weekly newsletter. It's called the 24/7 Hustle. It covers news in business, music, and culture, all through the lens of entrepreneurship. And for our paid options, guys, we have some great merch on the store. Check it out at hustleovereverything.co. And lastly, our Proud to Pay program is linked in the description down below. Now let's hop into the show.
Tristan, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show, man. We're really excited to have you on the Hustle Over Everything podcast. For a lot of people who don't know about you, like we know about you, and I know we just recorded an awesome intro about you right now. But for the people who don't really know about you yet, how would Tristan Barrocks describe Tristan Barrocks?
Wow. I would describe myself as a person who is passionate about storytelling and about empowering others to tell their stories and understand the value of telling their stories. I am a person who is a husband, a father, and at heart is just a person that loves to use creativity and creative arts and theatrical arts to connect with people. So that's really who I am at the gist of it. Obviously we can get into the technical things and what I'm doing now and how I label myself. But I think, if somebody was to describe who I am, those are some of the things I would love for them to say.
Yeah. So before, becoming a storyteller, going back to the early days, what was the first ever story you told that made you go down this journey of storytelling and becoming a digital storyteller?
Yeah, great question. For me, I think the very first story I ever told was really, it wasn't really my story. It was a story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. I was a part of
Daniel.
Yeah, I was a part of a play, and I was about 7 or 8 years old, and I was a part of like this kids group Wednesday night, sort of like kids group. My parents would go to Bible study, they'd bring me to church, and then I would this thing called King's Kids, and I remember they were doing this sort of auditions for this spring play. And one of the leaders of the pastors said, "Hey, why don't you try to audition?" I was like, "Well, I don't know. I don't really think it's for me." I wasn't really a great reader at the time, and I was kind of a little scared to do it. And they encouraged me to do it. So I studied really, really hard, and I wanted to be that sort of like that Jesus character, right? Right? I want to be the good guy. And I auditioned, and I remember seeing that I didn't get the role. But then there was another role of King Herod. And they were like, "Yeah, Tristan, we want you to play King Herod." And I was like, "What? But he's the bad guy. Like, he's the evil guy." And I was like, that really shook me. And I was like, "I don't understand it. Like, why do they want me to be a bad guy? I'm not a bad guy." And that was the beginning of me understanding the power of telling a story, because I was super nervous the night of the play. I worked really, really hard to memorize all my lines. And I remember one of my pastors put his arm around me and said, "Hey, just go out there, take the energy from the crowd and put it back out there. You have this." And I remember going out there and being the best King Herod I could possibly be, and having the whole crowd in the palm of my hands every time I stepped out on stage. And from that point on, I was like, okay, there's something to this. I didn't know exactly that it was storytelling, but I knew that it had something that allowed me to connect with audiences. And that's where my journey, the beginning of my journey of being a storyteller.
You had the sauce for storytelling from time, eh?
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, even on the side, I mean, my mom would be like, "Who drank off the last of my orange juice?" Oh,
yeah.
Coming from a West Indian home, you had to be a creative storyteller, right? My father was a creative storyteller. He'd be like, even now to this day, he'll be like, "Yeah, Tristan, come here. I want to tell you something. I went to the store, Costco, and they had this on sale, and you should go over there and try it." And it's like everything in our family is a story. If it's not presented in that, people don't even have time for you almost, So, yeah.
Yeah, man.
Most definitely. Your family's from Jamaica, right?
Yep, my mom's from Red Hills, in a suburb of Kingston, and my dad was born and raised in Kingston.
I think my family's from Red Hills too. Actually, that's crazy.
Yeah, the red dirt. So when you're Kingston, for those of us that are Jamaican, Kingston or not Jamaican, Kingston's in the valley, and then when you look up, there's like a giant red hill, and that community is called Red Hills.
Red Hills. Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm from country, as they say.
You're a country man now.
Yes. Come back from the mic a bit.
Who, me or Tristan?
You. Owen.
Oh, okay.
There you go. But yeah. Going back though, so it sounds like you went into acting from that point on. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I actually did. So I actually just, it's funny, before that time, I didn't really know what I was good at. I'm the third child out of four. I'm the third boy. So there was two older brothers. I had two older brothers, one younger sister. And when I had that moment of sort of like, this is my thing, acting is my thing, or the arts is my thing, I finally found a level of comfort in who I was, how I looked, how I carried myself. Everything sort of changed. And obviously it took a little bit of time, but I never really knew that it could be a career. All I knew was I found something I was good at. I found something that allowed me to stand out. I mean, think about it. You're the third boy out of four kids. Like, what are you like? And you're the third. You're literally like, what are you good at, right? You're not the oldest. You're not necessarily the smartest. At least in the sense of like academically, my older brother was just super, super smart. So I was trying to figure out exactly what I was good at. So once I found that, I kind of redirected all my energy into that and started to really pursue acting as something that was just fun for me. I really just did acting just as a way to kind of escape from everything else. And that really worked out for me. And it was primarily just in church and community plays.
Understood.
Yeah, those church plays were fun. I remember doing those when I was a little kid. I'm a big church guy. Like my family used to go to church. Like we still go, but I just don't go since I'm in Toronto. I'm back in my hometown here in Sarnia, Ontario, but I used to love doing those church plays, and acting was also one of my favorite things to do. I still have dreams of doing some acting, maybe some commercials, but we'll see about that. But it's definitely something I want to like dabble in throughout my career.
Well, nobody could tell me and look at me that I was not going to be the next Denzel Washington. Out of my mind, I was going to be up on that stage holding an Oscar and saying, "Hey, like I'm right after you, Denzel."
Mm-hmm. I don't think my mom.
Right. Yeah, you gotta imagine yourself doing it and killing it.
Most definitely. So when did you switch into digital storytelling?
Yeah, that was years later. So I progressed through sort of like high school years, and I actually I joined a choir, and that choir got a lot of press, and we got an opportunity to be a part of a movie. We actually got cast as a choir, and it was around the 4 girls that died in that the bombing of a church back in the 60s, or like the civil rights era. And we were the choir that was playing the role within this movie. And when we got casted for that was my first time that I was on a set again. And the reason why I say again was because when I was really, really young, I was a part of a movie called The Search for Bobby Fischer. That was actually shot in Toronto, and I was a kid, and my brother and I, that was the first time we ever had any sort of exposure to the film industry and acting. And then this was the second time being a part of the choir. And at that moment in time, I started to see sort of the movements of what the director did, what the first AD did, second AD, what the cameraman did, the grip did, the lighters. And I really started to take a liking to it, but I didn't really know where to go from it, because for me, I always looked at sort of that side of things as what my father did. My father was a photographer. He's been a photographer for over 40 years, and that was his thing. So I thought anything media related, anything camera related, that's his thing. That was my thing. And then I transitioned to a place where I really started to take film and television acting really seriously. But then I got to a point where I kind of got typecasted, and I wanted to find what and who I was and what type of stories I want to tell. Yeah. When that happened, that's when things really start to connect with me and come together. I went back to school, went to Seneca at York, big up Seneca at York. And I was in their digital media arts program. I learned a lot of things in the first year. I didn't really learn a lot the second year, but it's all good. I made a lot of connections, and I got out of school, and I knew from then on, I didn't want to just be a talent on camera. I wanted to be able to take the camera and wield it in a way that was responsible, that was brave, and that told the stories that I experienced.
Mm-hmm. So what were some of the inspirations that you wanted to emulate on camera, like behind the camera?
Yeah, I mean,
first you're trying to be Denzel.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, it wasn't necessarily a particular actor as much as it was experiences. I feel like or I felt like, and I still feel this way, that as a Black person, a person of African descent, we're definitely typecasted and stereotyped into as a certain community, right? As a monolith, right? Even when you look at just the Canadian Black community, we are made up of so many different parts of the diaspora. We have the African diaspora, so like I call them my brothers from the continent, directly brothers and sisters directly from the continent. We have, you know, the Black loyalists. We have, you know, the individuals that are from the West Indies. We have individuals that are from South and Central America, right? We have so many different, I mean, and then obviously our brothers and sisters from the UK and Europe and so on and so forth. So it's a real mixed bag, and everybody comes with their own tribe, tongue, and experience, right? But yet still, when we look at how we're represented, it's very narrow, and there's very much tunnel vision, and there's only going to be one Black person in every show, and most of the time that Black person is going to be lighter skinned than me and curlier, looser hair than me, and if they're darker, then definitely they're going to be a pimp, they're going to be a prostitute, drug dealer, die in jail, right? So and for me, I grew up with 4 siblings. My mom and my dad never got divorced. They've been together. They're still together. They love each other. My dad has been a force in my life. He's been an emotional leader in my life. He's taught me how to be a man, how to be a father. That's my experience. So imagine me now being in an industry where my experience has never been represented, never been shared, never been even thought of, because like, why would we show Black people that way? So that's really where my passion and my desire came from, to kind of create things I haven't seen.
Yeah, it's like a lot of people like are controlling our stories, our narratives, and like who we are as the collective. And I think it's like time for us to take that back and actually develop our own platforms to tell those stories. So like for you, like how would you like define what digital storytelling is? Because we all have different ideas, but from you, like how do you really describe, like, you know, see that?
Yeah, simply put, digital storytelling is the discipline of using digital medias to be able to tell human-centric stories. Okay, so and that's not just photography and cinematography. That's also graphic design. That's also digital writing. That's also multimedia disciplines and fusion of those disciplines. It's a mixture of a collection of art forms, right? But the main premise is that you're using digital mediums or digital platforms to communicate human-centered stories, right? And tell human-centered stories. And the reason why it's important to add in that stipulation of human-centered stories is because at the end of the day, what connects us all together are our human experiences, right? What allows our stories to add a level of value is when we see ourselves in a story, or we can feel the pain and empathize with that human emotion or that human experience. So I think that that's really the crux. If you're going to distill down what digital storytelling is, that's what it is for me.
That's a great definition.
Great definition.
One thing I wanted to commend you on is the fact that you were in the path. You know, you saw that you didn't like it and made the switch. You know, a lot of people, a lot of men, women will be in that path of, I hate this job, I hate this craft, and stay in it, you know, even though they hate it, or because it's pleasing somebody close to them, and won't bother switching, you know. So I just wanted to commend you on that, because not a lot of people have the guts to do that, first off.
And I'll be 100% honest with you, Alex, like, you know, after making that transition, I still had to go through that same sort of thing too, because I got out of school, and most of the jobs that were available were web jobs. They weren't film jobs. Right? Right? You know what I mean? People weren't paying students coming out of school to make films for them, right? So I really didn't have much options other than starting to film weddings with my father, and then also I started to work part-time at Apple. And what happened was that part-time job turned into a full-time job, and that 1 year commitment turned into 7 years of a commitment. And I got into a place where I was like, damn, I don't like, I love the brand, but I don't want to be the brand. I have my own journey that I have to run, right? And I own my own race I have to run. And even in transitioning from Apple, which took a lot of courage, I then went to another situation with the Peel District School Board, which was I was doing media there, and that was just a comfortable position. And I literally had to basically get released from there based on them ending the contract, for me to realize that, listen, the best thing I can do for myself is to believe in myself and in my abilities, right? I thought that making $51,000 per year with benefits and a pension was the best amount, like the most amount of money I'd ever make, because I didn't have a degree. I wasn't necessarily one of those scholars that I knew of, or that I had conversations with. So there was a lot of sort of internal building and self-doubt that I had to work through and work on.
A lot of people, like, we're creatives, we get sucked up into this role of, like, we gotta work, we gotta do these jobs, and like the things that we don't really want to do. How did you really try? Of course, like, you gotta pay your bills, but you really want to do your creative activities, you want to make your videos, you want to create on a full-time basis. How did you really get to that level where you transition from doing the things that you don't really want to do to really going full throttle into developing your own brand and building what you're building right now?
Yeah.
Like, what were the steps that you took?
Before I answer that question, low-key, I want to make sure that if my face freezes like O'Shea, you better tell me, all right? Because I'm gonna turn off both of it. I'm gonna like, no, low-key.
You just froze.
On purpose. You're doing it on purpose.
Did you do that on purpose?
I didn't.
I knew this was playing with it.
Did I freeze? Oh man!
Yeah, you
You're
freeze.
lying.
How
You're
ironic!
lying.
That was crazy.
I didn't. See, Zoom's listening to our conversation. Anyways.
Hold on. What camera are you using?
I'm using the A7 Mark III.
So does it have unlimited recording time?
It doesn't, but what does it have unlimited recording time? No, I think it stops at 30 minutes. I'm not really sure. I barely shoot at up to 30 minutes, but what it does is I plug it into my computer and I can then have unlimited recording time.
Okay. If anything, we will definitely let you know. Without a doubt.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So with regards to your question, in terms of like, how do people make the pivot or take the jump? There's an easy way of doing it, right? I would say if I had the opportunity with no kids, no wife, I would have just said, F this, I'm just going to do it. Like, just do it. You know what I mean? Like, literally, I sound like a Nike commercial, but literally it's like, how much or how earnestly do you desire to be in the groove of what you want to be? Like, how much do you want to get your purpose and get your passion and go after those things, right? That's what I would ask those creatives, because I think even my friends that are single, there's a level of complacency that's just implicit. Like, it's just cultural. And what I mean by cultural, it's not cultural as in ethnicity. It's cultural as in, like, I got to put in my Instagram time. I got to put in my social media time. I got to make sure that I'm abreast of all pop culture references. Who says that? Who made up those rules? At the end of the day, while you're watching, the hottest Netflix show, there's people that are kicking your ass, they're not sleeping, that are putting in hours. Like, when I was working at Apple, I would put in 8 hours at Apple. I would come back home and I put in another 6 to 10 hours in editing and working on my craft and doing things, picking up my camera. I would walk around with my camera all the time, especially when I first had my DSLR and I had no idea about shutter speed, ISO, or aperture. I was like, I need to learn this. I love this so much. And if I love this so much, why am I not doing it? Right. And it doesn't matter if I never share it with the world right now. What I'm doing is I'm working on the habits, the healthy habits, and working on that muscle memory. So when my name is called, I'm ready to go. And I think a lot of times we're waiting for the opportunity to transition, and the opportunity lies in the preparation. If you don't prepare, then the opportunity will never come. Right.
Mm-hmm. It's like, you're like, what's that? Oh yeah, Al, what you gonna say?
I just have a quick phrase. Like GLC said, proper preparation prevents poor performance.
Yeah,
exactly. You got to be ready to come off the bench. That's what it's all about. I even forgot what I was gonna say, but it's even like right now, like COVID. Like, I feel like we're preparing. I mean, personally, I'm preparing for when this is all over. That we've produced a lot of great work that I won't have to go to work, or I'll still have to go to work, but not for so long that we have to start from ground zero again to really build what we're building. I kind of see this time as an opportunity to really stack up, because I have no obligations. There's no outside pressure, but just build what we're building and staying creative. And because we want to do this on a full-time basis.
And there's no reason why you can't. I think and I don't want to sound too deep, but like the paradigm shift has to happen with you, right? You have to see the value in your time, right? My dad puts it this way. He said he used to say to me, Tristan, if you take the same energy and same intentionality that you put into working 40 hours a week at Apple, why can't you be successful in your own business? If you take that the same skills, the same energy, the same output, and you place that into your business, there's no way that you can tell me you're not going to be successful. And I would say that and challenge any creative that wants to go on their own. And this is, please understand what I'm saying. Like, not everybody needs to be on their own grind. Some people work really, really well as a great piece to a larger thing, right? And I think that that's a great principle to live by, understanding where your placement is. But if you know in your heart of heart, you're in a place where you don't want to be and you're working for somebody or a brand or a company that you don't believe in, then it's really healthy to set up some sort of exit strategy and also give yourself a deadline, give yourself a timeline, and jump. You got to jump.
Yeah,
I 100% agree. Also, a lot of people have like an ego with being the creator and being at the forefront or the last man, and that doesn't have to necessarily be the case. You know, the third person at Facebook makes a lot more money than a lot of us. You know, and knowing your role as well. Like, so not everybody's meant to be the head honcho,
like
or
a Jordan, you know.
Exactly. Some people are the Pippen. Some people are the Steve Kerr. You know. So
exactly.
So you used to have to know your role and be self-aware of that role, so you can like move forward in that self-awareness.
But I think the trouble is, see, there's a fallacy, and what I mean by that is a little bit of a lie that we believe in. We all believe in our own hype because we have 2,000 followers, we have 10,000 followers, we have 15,000 followers, or 80,000 followers, and the reality is that followers don't equate to quality or being qualified. You follow what I'm saying? So I'm not trying to discount everybody that has a large following. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that there's a level of a grain of salt and self-awareness, like you said before, to understand that if you're only measuring things by followers and subscribers, then there may be some error in those numbers, right? And one of the things that my mom used to always tell me is that, who's grading your paper? What does she mean by that? She means who are the OGs? Who are the people that have been certified as actual professionals, respected in their fields by people that are in the field, as well as respected externally and known as, you know, top in their field, that's grading your paper. And I find that there's a disconnect between people wanting affirmation and people actually getting the true value of feedback and growing from that feedback.
Great point. That's a big gem.
Big gems right there, man.
All right. So let's go back into your story now. So you're working at Apple 8 hours a day, I believe you said, and then 6 hours you're working on your craft, right? Yep. Talk to me about yourself in that process and building up the business then. What were some of the things you did that, first off, saved you time and helped you develop your clientele and really build your business?
So one of the things that I did very early, and I share this with every creative that is starting in the business, is I learned very quickly what I didn't want to do, right? And I also learned very quickly what I did want to do, right? And the only way that you can do that is by doing everything. You got to try everything at least once, and then quickly be decisive and figure out exactly the things that really put a spark or create a spark inside of you, and continue in those paths, and then study. You got to study. I was studying on Vimeo, YouTube. I was reading. One of the things I love to do is to nerd out when I get a new piece of gear and go through tons of YouTube videos and read manuals and see every single feature. Like, know what your craft is and know the ins and the outs of it. Now, that's more of the gear side and the functional side, the technical side. On the side of saving my time, the reality was that there wasn't really saving time. because the reality, the only thing that I could do was I was just offering up my sleep in a trade-off of progressing myself a little bit quicker. So instead of me being able to get my 8 hours, I'd probably get 4 to 6 hours of sleep, and that extra 2 or 3 hours compounded over the course of 6 or 7 years allowed me to kind of catch up on some of my competition and some of the people that I looked up to, because I was willing to go that extra bit of time to learn and to invest in myself. So I think cutting down the time of maybe the learning curve, it is all about understanding that, you know what, I may be losing sleep. I may only get 4 hours of sleep for the next 2 years, but what is that worth in terms of the longevity of my career, right? And where I'm going. And I think we all need to have that carrot in front of us, right? To see that carrot represents our vision, the vision of not just the goal, but the reality of what we want to experience as creatives, entrepreneurs, etc. And when we see that, when we have that carrot, that will give us the energy to push through when we don't want to push through. Like within from 2010, I would say, from 2010 to 2020, this year, I got married. My wife and I had 2 kids. We bought our first home. I went full time into my business. So a lot of things happened, and those things wouldn't have happened if I didn't have that vision, that carrot in front of me to propel myself, push myself past what I felt, and also building a community of individuals that would push me when I didn't have the energy to push myself.
Okay, so you're one of the only Black men that I know that's an entrepreneur and married and a father. So I feel like I'd be missing an opportunity if I wasn't asking you.
You didn't ask this, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? All right, talk to us about balancing that. Those conversations that you need to have with the wife. I don't want to get probably too much because.
Listen, this is something we talk about a lot, both my wife and I. But I'll allow you to finish the question. Sorry.
No worries. Talk to us about those conversations that you have with the wife to just have a level playing field, and try to establish empathy with what you're doing and the goals you're trying to get throughout the marriage, because it's a messy middle.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So first things first, and you may have heard it in my colleague's podcast, O'Shane Howard, when he was asked this question about balance. But there is no balance. I don't believe in balance. I believe that we live a life of extremes. What do I mean by that? I mean that today I'm a great husband. I may be a great husband, and I may not be a great business person, right, to my clients. Tomorrow I may be an amazing cinematographer and person to work with, but I may not be a great father because I can't go to that recital because I'm at this shoot, right? So there are compromises that you make, but you make it. First of all, you can't make it you can't miss a recital more than once, right? You can't do it twice in a row or 3 times in a row. You got to be present. You got to be aware of the heartbeat and the rhythm and the cadence of first your wife or your partner, and then your children as well. So I think this is something that had to be learned, because you have to understand that my wife and I, and we talk about this a lot on different platforms, but she came from more of a traditional West Indian home, in the sense of both of her parents, although they weren't together, they both had government jobs. They kind of did the 9-to-5 thing, and once they plugged out, right? My parents, although they started there, they ended in entrepreneurship. So for the first half of my life, maybe from 0 years old to maybe 10, I saw my dad go to a 9-to-5 job, but then he was also hustling on the side, doing 3 weddings a week. He was working for Toronto Hydro from Monday to Friday, and then he would do 3 weddings on the weekends, and he would bring my older brother to help assist on those weddings. And my mom would be at home, and then she would also work at daycares because she was an ECE worker. And then it got to a point where my dad was only doing photography. And when he was only doing photography, he got to a place where he was literally doing, 10, 12 hours of work, and just so passionate about what he wanted to do. And there had to be a level of understanding from both myself and my wife of where we were coming from. So for her, work was you worked, your 8 hours, you unplugged, and then home was a place to chill. For me, work was I work for the man, Apple or whoever else, and then I come home and I work for myself to then do the work that I don't necessarily want to do, but I have to do, so then I can do and have the decision-making power later on in my life to do what I want to do, right? And for a while, that was a little bit of an area of contention, because those were two different ideologies, right? One was, I'm going to plug into something. The other one was, I was going to be the plug, right? That everything plugs into, right? So understanding the cadence really had to come through years of communication, being committed to understanding that at the end of the day, we want to be together. We love each other. We're building a family together, but we also need to be sensitive to each other's needs and what's important to each other. So for her, what's important to her is time. Time with the family, time with her, being able to invest in our home and invest in vacationing and things of that nature. And for me, I enjoy doing YouTube videos. I enjoy teaching people. I enjoy doing things like this, having conversations with you. So it's understanding that, some days I'm going to be doing this 8 hours. Other days I'm unplugged for a weekend. You know what I mean? Or a couple of days, or I'm going to go on vacation and nobody's going to know where I'm at. And I'm just going to be with my wife and have, hubby and wifey time. So it's really understanding that there is no ambiguity. There's no sort of like area for like just gray area. There's just a lot of extremes. And once you understand that and embrace that, it's a freeing experience.
Yeah. The one thing about being an entrepreneur is that, we have relationships that we have to manage, but like I think our first and foremost thing that we do care about the most is our business, especially starting early on. It's like a juggle to like have a girlfriend and also work on your business. They're working on their own thing too, and you're together. It's a mess. And I've never met an entrepreneur who's perfected it like really well, where they're 100% investing in their business. They're working so hard and also keeping everybody happy. And I see what you mean by like it's extremes, right? There's no balance. You can't really balance and get the best out of everything. It's like something has to suffer, something has to give, but it's just about communicating what has to give at that time.
And I just want to add to your point. The one commitment that I made when my son was born and my daughter as well was that I would rather be a good business person and a great, a good creative and a great or amazing dad than be a so-so dad and be an amazingly successful entrepreneur and business person. For me, the value was in being a father, was being there for my family, right? So there are opportunities that I have to decline based upon my value system. So what I would say to those that are in the creative sector, that are maybe single, that want to start a family, or that have a family that want to go into their creative career, you got to really set your values first and figure out what's valuable to you and your family. Or if it's just yourself, you as an individual, before you start making decisions, life decisions, that now you have to kind of reformat and reconfigure. But for me, I'm completely okay with, if my life stays at this level, in the sense of, this level of success, this level of influence, I'm completely okay with that. It's taken me a long time to feel that way. And I know that there's going to be more opportunities. I truly believe that in my heart. But if the other opportunities don't come, I still have a beautiful wife, amazing kids. I have a great life. I get to travel. People send me around, to film stuff for them, and I get to travel around the world. I don't really have anything to complain about.
Yeah.
I hear that. So let's dive more into building the biz. So, now we kind of talked about Apple and building the biz through that, working and getting 4 hours of sleep to get ahead of the competition. All right. So now you have a clientele. Talk to us about maintaining the clientele, growing that business, maintaining it, paying taxes. Like, what was that middle for you like?
Yeah, I mean, it was a headache at first because, I didn't go to school for business, right? Business admin. I didn't go to school to learn to be an entrepreneur. So a lot of what I learned was through trial and error, right? It was through understanding that one of the biggest areas of opportunity for young entrepreneurs is being empathetic. I think that sometimes we're so focused on being successful and making enough money to survive, or to buy the next lens, or to open up our shop or pay our rent or whatever else, that we don't always empathize with the consumer, with the client. And those that are most successful on a long period of time understand the value of acknowledging and feeling and having empathy for your client and the client experience. And that's something that I was really grateful for in terms of working at Apple, was that I learned the importance of understanding how to have a strong brand, how to communicate your brand, understanding the vocabulary around your brand, and then also what was the client journey going to be like. Now, I understood Apple's client journey, but now what was Tristan's client journey going to be like? What was going to look like? What was going to smell like? What was it going to taste like? How did I want people to leave feeling after we did what we did together? Whether it was, filming your wedding, whether it was creating a promotional campaign, whatever that was. How was I going to give a great experience to every single client? So, things like, making sure that, you have follow-up emails, or you write notes, or you create gift boxes, or you send out gift cards to clients and you just check in with them, or, simple things, making sure that you register your business, right? That you have a HST number. And even if you're not making $30,000 like it's stipulated in tax law in Canada to declare or to start collecting HST, putting in those practices in your workflow, so that when you are if you're in business, you're gonna want to make more than $30,000. $30,000 is like basically minimum wage. It's like you might well work at Shoppers Drug Mart, right?
Yeah.
So if you're going to do that, if you know that your aspiration is going to grow the business, then put in those things into your infrastructure so that there's fluidity and there's consistency from day one. I don't think you wait to put in those practices.
Okay,
Awesome.
so we should take a quick pause, because you're not freezing, but
You're
you're lagging.
Oh, I'm lagging. Okay,
you're lagging. Yeah, we should take a pause.
Okay, let me
just pause real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And we're back. So
All
yeah.
right. So let's talk about captivating an audience through storytelling. Right now with the current climate, most people aren't going to be able to afford TV ads. Not going to be able to afford most ways of advertising, because right now the predominant way of storytelling is as an advertisement. Whether paid or organic. If someone was to create, let's say, a Facebook ad or a YouTube ad, or just want to try to tell their story online, what are some of the elements you would say they should definitely consider with going through the process?
Well, first and foremost, in terms of telling stories in general, you have to kind of figure out your why, right? You got to have a purpose behind it. And I think there's a lot of people that are creating cool content, but it's content that doesn't have any meaning behind it. So even though it looks great, it's visually appealing, it's not necessarily gravitating. It doesn't really pull you in necessarily. And once you watch it a couple times, it's like whatever else, right? The best types of marketing materials are the ones that aren't selling you something, they're telling you something, right? So you got to know the why. You got to know the audience that you're trying to play to, right? Who are they? What do they want, right? What do you want them to feel, think, or experience, right? After they watch whatever you've presented to them, whatever story you told to them, what do you want them to think about? What do you want them to feel? What do you want them to do, right? Because there's a level of I don't want to say this in a negative way, but there's a level of manipulation that we all have when we use stories, right? When we're doing storytelling, and manipulation, not necessarily in a bad way, but to pull the audience in to our story so that they can experience it, and then they then walk away with certain feelings, thoughts, or a pull to do certain things. So that's what I mean by what do you want them to feel or think or do? Those are sort of the core elements at the beginning, and then once you understand that sort of part of your philosophy, then you can go into, okay, now we're going to, focus in on this part of my story, or this part of the brand, or this product, connecting in this way with these characters. But you can't really go into the creative before you have the conversation about the why, the who it's for, the how it's going to make them feel, think, or do what they're going to do with it.
Big gems.
Big gems. So there's a lot of people who, you listen to people like Gary Vee, a lot of content producers are out here, and there's this push for creating a lot of content on a daily basis to really build an audience. So there's this battle of the art versus quantity, right? Where you want to produce a lot more so you can keep your audience engaged, but then you're sacrificing the art of it. How do you really balance that whole notion of quantity to build an audience versus art, but also want to build an audience at the same time?
Well, that's where you have to go back and you have to ask yourself, what type of audience am I building, right? What kind of brand am I building? So the question that many of us don't ask is, what is my voice? Because your vibe will attract your tribe, right? So it doesn't, we always look externally. We're always looking at, how do I get more attention from other people? How do I build my audience? Well, nobody in the audience is going to care if you're inauthentic. You're never going to keep and hold and build real authentic connections with your audience if you don't care yourself, if you don't have a passionate, earnest desire to show, or to at least present a part of yourself and a part of your voice that you've already done the work to discover and to understand, right? So I think as creatives and as creators, we have to now first reflect the type of audiences that we want to gravitate to. Now, obviously, this is more for like passion projects and things that we're creating maybe on our own and films and whatever else. Now, if we're working with a brand, we have to understand what the voice of the brand is, right? What is the voice of the brand of Gap, or of the voice of the brand of Walmart or of Apple? Then once we understand that, we can then understand that the type of person that those brands pull into them, and what kind of conversation we want to craft through that story, right? And through that content. But I think this whole notion, Gary Vee is great. He has a lot of points, but one of the things I've watched a lot of Gary Vee videos. One of the things that I realized with Gary Vee is figuring things out just like you're figuring things out, just like I'm figuring things out. So 1 minute he'll say, this is really cool. Then the next minute he'll say, you know what, this was really cool, but now it's this. He's just trying to figure it out too. The only difference between, Gary Vee and myself is that he has a team to produce dope videos for him, or videos that represent the brand that he wants to push forth. But in terms of content and building out a whole bunch of content, you still have to be purposeful about it. What's the point of creating all this? It still takes time, energy, effort, intellect to create content. If you're not putting any effort or energy or intellect or intentionality into your content, why do you think somebody else should spend time consuming your content? Right. And what type of connection now are you building with that clientele? There's a difference between the relationship I have with the drive-thru at McDonald's than going to my mom's house and sitting down for a meal. Right. The two are providing me with food and the service of food, but the connection I have with both producers are totally different. And the way that I approach them are totally different as an audience member, right? As a receiver. And that's the same thing as content creators. You can be the McDonald's, you can be the Harveys, you can be the Wendy's of this age and era, or you can be something more, and you can say something more and still be relevant and still, make people pause and think. And your one video can speak to 100 videos or 1,000 videos that somebody else creates. So that's my thought on it.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
I was just going to add, there's like, in this era, like in 2020, like a lot of people, their attention span is so small, right? If you don't keep them engaged, or you don't keep something coming, like at least on a consistent basis, it's so easy to lose that. And as up and coming content creators, getting started is like one of the hardest things in really coming into yourself, right? When people think about getting started, they think about a lot of things. One is like the fear of putting out content, and the next thing is the gear, the tools. For people who are like getting started, what would you tell them to really what would you tell them to really get over this hump of putting yourself out there, and as well getting started with gear, whether it's like camera, microphone, whatever it is that you make up an excuse not to really put your stuff out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think two things when you're speaking. Number one is this is probably the best time to be a creative, especially a young creative, because you have so much analytics and stats, and you have actual feedback that you can get from your audience. You can see what works, what lands, what doesn't land, right? So you can take a lot more chances, a lot more risks, right? And you'll get the real world data. So I tend to think I wish I had some of these tools 10, 15, 20 years ago, because I think I would have probably been a little bit further along in my journey. But that being said, I think that it's really, really important to, number one, you got to figure out your voice, find your voice as a young creative. And that means you got to do a lot of work. What tends to happen is our taste is at a superb level, but our talent doesn't match our taste. And it's a constant sort of cat and mouse game that we play with our taste and our talent. As our talent rises, our taste rises as well. And then our talent rises again, and then our taste rises even higher. And what we have to realize is that's, if we don't have that, once they match, then it's almost like the game's over, and your passion will diminish. So don't despise humble beginnings. Don't despise making mistakes. Don't despise, getting in somebody's car and holding your camera, and that's your glide cam shot. Like, that's okay. Like, I did that too, and trying to use pieces of tape and bits of glass to create different effects, because you didn't have the money to buy that glass effects, pack from some big YouTuber. Use what you have, right? I think in terms of gear, there will always be better gear. You will always want more gear. You will always think that the next piece of gear is going to make you more of a professional. What's going to make you more of the most professional, or make you a professional in general, is consistency and understanding and being competent with the gear that you have. Understanding that the gear that you have right now is all you need to tell the story that you need to tell. People will stay and sit down and watch a well-told story, even if it's on an iPhone, even if it's a little rickety, even if the color grade is off, because the craft and the intentionality is there.
Most definitely.
It's definitely, yeah.
In regards to the talent, that's 100% true. If you put a chef in the regular kitchen, he can still cook you a meal. It doesn't matter that if he has a specific grill or whatever have you to actually execute. It's the actual talent that's within you. So I 100% agree there. Going on to Owen's point a little bit, getting started, I think, is definitely tough. But I think it's actually more tough, though, is being consistent, like you're saying. Staying at it when someone's sick, staying at it when you're sick, staying at it when you're not getting any results. That's really the tough part, I find. How have you been able to navigate and stay consistent?
So consistency through diversity. So what do I mean by that? We're in an era and where we have a lot of opportunities to earn different streams of income, and that's something that if we haven't learned it before, we should know it now, especially being down in being in lockdown and being in this sort of COVID crisis and coming out of it. I hope one of the lessons that we're all learning is the power of having streams of income, meaning, having digital products, working on a book, working on a podcast, working on your YouTube channel, having your steady clients, working in a couple of different areas to be able to have streams of opportunity to create content and to produce a level of income, regardless of the economic or the health crises that will hit us, that are going to come. So I think with that consistency, there's a level of desire and passion, but then also there's a level of being strategic. I've always been a person that has it sounds very Jamaican of me, but I've always had like multiple jobs, right? I've never had one job, right? That's a West Indian joke for those that don't know what I mean. But I look at my life, my creative journey the same way. Although people know me as the digital storyteller, I also run another brand called Felicity Moments, which is a wedding cinematography and storytelling company. And then I also run another brand called 360 Booth, which is just a 360 event booth, photo booth. So I have different streams of income. I do speaking, and I do teaching, right? I do training. I have a podcast. So there are different platforms that I'm plugging into or I'm connecting to, so that if one dries up for now, wedding season and event season is probably dry for the rest of the year, I still have my training and teaching series that I can make some revenue off of and stay consistent that way.
What's been the most financially successful for you?
The most financially successful, it's so funny. Probably weddings. Because
Really?
everybody, here's the thing. No matter what, weddings and funerals people will always have, regardless. People are always going to get married and people are always going to die, right? And those are two businesses that will always need your services. Will need photography, cinematography, storytelling. And I personally love telling stories in general, so I don't really care what platform or what genre it's in. So I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, I can't do, I'm a storyteller, so I can't do weddings. It's like there's actually probably more income potential in the wedding industry and the event industry, like both corporate and wedding industry, than there is in just doing commercials, because so many people focus on commercials and so many people focus on real estate that it's oversaturated. Whereas with weddings, if you create a niche market for yourself, you could be easily making 6-7 figures easily. It's just a matter of making the right relationships and things of that nature. So when I look at my business, I would say 1/3 is like weddings, 1/3 is commercial, and then 1/3 is like non-for-profit charitable work. But in terms of like longevity and consistency, it's been weddings.
Mm-hmm.
So you just said niching in weddings. Can you talk to us about niching in weddings? How do you niche down? And
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was interesting.
So when you're in a area like weddings, you have to, when I talk about niche, I talk about what's your audience, right? Understanding your audience. So for me, I understand my audience is Generation Z and millennials, right? That's my audience. And partially I'm technically a millennial, but I'm technically kind of like Generation X, because I'm
you're
like
right in the middle. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm 1983, so I was kind of in the middle. I still understood what A-Track was and what record players were, and then I didn't get my first home computer until about 1991. So it's all that sort of stuff. Anyways, I digress. What I'm trying to say is that I understand the value that millennials and Generation Z put into having a customized experience, a curated experience. So I don't waste a lot of time with clients that don't find value and don't understand the value I bring in terms of storytelling. If you look at me and look at another company that's half my price and say, well, this person is just as good as you, you're not my client, right? So when I say niche down, I mean understanding the values that you have and the values that your clients have for quality, understanding how your client thinks, understanding where they shop, what are the experiences that they would like to have, and also what's their vocabulary, what are they talking about, what matters to them, right? And all of those things will allow you to niche down. What a lot of people try and do is they try and put out such a broad net, whether it's in weddings or conferences or commercials, that they're a jack of all trades, but they're not they're a master of none. Right? If you're in commercial, do you want to do products? Do you want to do clothing? Do you want to do fashion, like, high-end runway fashion? Do you want to do, story-driven commercials? Do you want to do, microfilms? Do you want to do digital and web campaigns? What are you niching in? What are you specializing in? Because the more you specialize, the more you increase your value. Because now you're saying, I'm putting my 10,000 hours, not just in a broad spectrum, but in a specific way to now leverage that knowledge to stand out from others.
Solid.
Just to give you a little bit of pushback here. So you said, like, if someone wasn't paying the amount that you're looking for, then they're not in your niche?
Yep.
Like when you're building a biz, right? Don't you have that pressure of like, making business and generating income? Perhaps they might be your niche per se, but they want to do business with you. Would you say no to them just because they don't fit the type of work you want to do? Like, are you comfortable doing that?
I'm comfortable with saying no to people based upon the fact that, you see, it's not just about price, right? one of the things that you have to understand is that your price represents value, right? The value you bring. So when I say, let's say I for photography and cinematography, it's $7,000 or $8,000 for that, right? For that package, right? And you say, I want you for $4,500, Tristan. What you're saying to me is that first of all, you're coming to me because you like my work. So you see my value, but you don't want to pay the price of my value. You see what I'm saying? So for me, that's why you're not my client, right? And that can change, but understanding your value and your worth is the biggest issue that many creatives have, because they're like, well, I got to pay bills, and how do I make money? The way that you make money is not by lowering your prices and doing a lot of work. The way that you make money is by setting your value, making prices that represent and reflect your value and the time that you spend creating that work, and then generating an economy around that. And the reality is that I'm not trying to get 100 out of 100 people that come through my door. I'm trying to book the 10% that understand my value, because if I book the 10%, then I'm still going to make the numbers the numbers and the goals I have in my business, right? But I think when we're looking at the quantity of people and trying to book the quantity of people, then what happens is we put ourselves in a disadvantage, because now we have to meet the commitment of the large quantity of people that we're working for, but we can't deliver on the quality because we don't have enough time, because we didn't set the budget appropriately. And now we're frustrated with these clients because they're asking us for this high of quality, but then they only made this amount of effort in terms of investing in us, right? So now we're in a quandary. We're like, well, I've committed to 30 weddings, but they're all like at a $1,500 or $2,000, but I spend 80 hours doing one wedding, and 80 hours can translate into $7,000 worth of work after you look at editing, your music licensing, the gear, the insurance, the travel time, the Q&A with the clients, emails back and forth, contract preparation, all of that sort of stuff, right? So I think we sometimes miss the mark as creatives, because we're thinking creatively and we're thinking the next project, instead of thinking like, how am I building my brand so that a part of the trick that I do is, it's not even a trick, it's just a strategy. I set my prices for both my cinematography and my photography in a way that allows me to not have to deal with certain conversations and certain types of clients that don't understand value, right? So what was happening to me when I first started was I had the mentality of, I just want to get clients, but then I was having conversation after conversation where people were lowballing me and not understanding the value I brought, and it was frustrating. So when I raised my prices based upon my value, how I perceived my value, and the value I brought based upon obviously the research I did within the environment, the Toronto or GTA or the Canadian environment of cinematographers for weddings or commercials, then I realized that, okay, I'm no longer having certain people come through my doors because they understand that I'm already out of their price points, and that's okay. Like it's not to say they're bad. If I say that person's not my client, it doesn't mean that they're a bad person. It just means that they have a certain idea of what they want to pay and what value video or cinematography or storytelling brings to their life. And there's other people that understand where I'm coming from. I hope that brings a little bit more clarity to the situation.
Most definitely.
It definitely does.
Yeah, that could everything. Well, so now I'm curious as to growing the business, right? Now that you have your own niche, where do you go to find more of that niche? Is it just spraying and praying on social media? Tell me more about growing that specific niche. I would love to know.
So I'm gonna let you in on a secret.
Please.
This is a life changer. So this is something that I learned in the wedding industry, but it can be used in any single industry, every single industry, I should say. And that is the secret of making authentic connections with other vendors and with other vested interests. So what I mean by vested interests, I mean other businesses that may not be doing exactly what you're doing, but that are a part of that process. So let's say, for instance, you're in the commercial sector again, you're doing commercial cinematography, and you're a cinematographer. Well, you need to build relationships with directors, with producers, with writers, with makeup artists, with hair people, with wardrobe people, with first ADs, second ADs, grips. All of these people are part of your ecosystem, your economy. That's the value, and that's the focus that you should really be putting a lot of your energy in, because the next quality opportunity is not going to just come through your door necessarily. That can come, those come, but the consistent opportunities that I've gotten every single time have come through authentic connections and relationships that I built within the industry of choice. So whether it's a wedding, other wedding vendors, right? So for me, I started out just doing cinematography, and then before I went into photography, I had a lot of relationships with photographers, still do, and I get passed off work all the time. Or they're like, hey, can you come, travel with me to St. Lucia because they need a cinematographer? Sure thing. Can you be my second photographer for this project? Absolutely. And then a lot of times that now has spun off into doing commercial work, where I've done, photo shoots and cinematography projects and storytelling projects for magazines, international magazines and things of that nature, and working with celebrities. But all of that came out of me building relationships internally in that industry, instead of looking externally directly to the client. And that's not to say that you can't, like, obviously you can direct your focus to the client, but oftentimes we spend so much energy and so much money trying to get to that target ideal client, when if we spend half of that energy and half that time on the industry professionals that we should have connections with, we'll be so much more successful and so much more further ahead.
Beautiful answer. That's a big gem.
Big gem. Tristan, one thing I also want to ask you, right, is like, you're a very creative guy and you put out a lot of content on the regular on many different various platforms. How do you consistently stay creative and really not really remaining stagnant and doing the same things that you've been doing before that perhaps you've outgrown them? Like, how do you channel that creativity to take your message, your vision to the next level?
So you gotta, a few things. There's a combination of a few things. Number one, I would say you definitely have to have an environment or build a community of people that will create an environment for you to continuously level up. So from O'Shane Howard to Jody Ann Beckford to Andrew and Julianne James to my wife, Natanya Barrocks, to so many, my father, there's so many people that have influence in how I've been able to level up, because they require more from me. So I think first and foremost, you got to create that level up community, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is you have to be willing to invest in yourself, right? Invest time. Sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is to get away from your work. The most creative thing you can do for yourself is not to do creative work, right? And not to watch a creative, but just to live life, to experiences, to go out, go to the beach, go travel, go experience the flavors of the world, eat, write, read poetry, like just do things that are not necessarily directly connected to content creation, because that will then allow you to now build up that hunger to give again. But oftentimes what we're doing is we're so busy creating and pushing out content that we don't take the time to actually fill ourselves back up with the nourishing things for our soul, for our emotions, for our intellect, for our being, to be better storytellers, to be better creatives.
That makes a lot of sense. Moving right along, recently you had a project with O'Shane, and actually we talked about it on the previous podcast with O'Shane Howard. I'll link it down below in the description. Actually, I don't want to butcher it. Can you walk us through the whole project? And
yeah, what part? I don't want to miss the process of it.
The process of creating it. What's it called? Where can people find it?
Yeah. So the project that we recently released was called Praise and Worship. It was the lead creative was O'Shane Howard, and he had this epiphany, had this idea that he wanted to create stories around his faith, but in relevant, high level intellectual ways, very artistic, very, very forward thinking ways. And he told me about this sort of idea of having, creating this piece called Praise and Worship, and he would do the photography, I would do the cinematography, and then we would combine it together to give this sort of multi-leveled experience for viewers. And what that was a few young ladies. They were liturgical dancers, so it's kind of a mixture of ballet, jazz, and a mixture of a few other dancing styles. And then they incorporated props like flags and wings and fluid dresses to be able to articulate themselves a little bit more through the dance pieces that they did on camera. And to be honest with you, I was just kind of helping him out. I wasn't trying to overstep my bounds or anything like that. I really wanted him to O'Shane to have free reign to kind of source the direction and send the direction to myself and the other creatives involved. But I think what was kind of interesting was that when we shot it, I felt pretty good about what I shot. He didn't feel that great about it. And we had that sort of a moment where we kind of shelved the whole project. And the reason why we shelved it was just because we just felt like it wasn't finished. And a few weeks ago, about a month and a half ago, he came to me and said he wants to finish the project. Let's do it. And I'm like, dude, like, I'm so busy doing other things. And he's like, well, I want to do it. I'm like, all right. And maybe a day before it was due, I thought it was due. He actually said, no, it's actually due like in 24 hours. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do an all-nighter and let's see what happens. And the rest is history. And we put out the film, we put out the photos, and it's just spoken to so many people. So I'm really, really grateful to be a part of that project.
It was a beautiful project. You got to check it out. Follow O'Shane on Instagram. I think it's just O'Shane Howard. Yeah. And Tristan Barrocks I believe it's just Tristan Barrocks.
Yeah, just at Tristan Barrocks.
At Tristan Barrocks. Yeah. Most definitely. So working towards wrapping up here. Where do you see the business going in the future?
I see my business going into way more areas of education, and doing a lot more thought-provoking pieces, a lot more passion projects. My goal is to transition from sort of consumer-level products and services and going into more commercial stuff and working with bigger brands, but specifically creating films and projects that we're able to broadcast on the Hulus and the Netflix of the world, and really build a level of awareness around the experiences that Black Torontonians have. Or for me, Malton, I grew up in Malton, and there's a lot of stories behind the town, the little city of Malton, that I would love to share with the world. So it's really just kind of focusing in on really intentional storytelling, artful and creative and inspiring storytelling, and then partnering that up with the educational factor, creating experiences, educational opportunities and experiences for young up and coming creatives, and being able to also build our library or our catalog of educational courses.
Most definitely.
Yeah, this was great. It's such a great show that we did with you, Tristan, and definitely thanks for coming on and doing this with us. We really appreciate it.
Well, listen, I appreciate you guys. You guys are doing something really, really amazing, and I can't wait to have you guys on my podcast. I got to make the plug story over everything. There's this over everything. Then we got story over everything. It's all good. It's all good.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't bite them. I just want to let them know. I just want to let y'all know for the record.
Yes. We do not bite each other. Great minds think alike.
Exactly.
Like, hey, hustle everything, story everything. And now we have like the meeting of the minds.
Exactly.
Podcast. So I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be good.
I'm excited as well, and I really respect you guys. I really respect what you guys are doing. I see the vision, and I think it's incredible that you guys are taking the time to be intentional about telling these stories and connecting the dots in terms of getting the community together in a more holistic way. So that's dope.
Thank you.
That, man. That means a lot.
Yeah, man.
A lot. All right, Hustle Nation, we out.
We out.
Peace.